complaints that the batteries were going dead or something.
We just replaced them all. Huh. They have all brand new batteries. We just replaced them all.
The clerk is saying that she just replaced the batteries in all of them. So
We'll correct it.
we're going to clear the board and try it again.
We're having technical error over here. We're having technical problems.
Okay, we are having technical problems, so we're just going to do a...
We know who's here.
Everyone is present.
Let me have the sheet.
Can you read this and then I go down to do the presentation?
I can. Whenever you're ready.
We're going to move on. County Clerk.
This. Recognition of the Wilmot Union High School Academic Decathlon team for winning the 2016 Division II United States Academic Decathlon Championship.
Last year we had the pleasure of supporting the Wilmot DECA Decathlon group as they took first in the nation, correct? Okay. This year they have taken first again. So we're very excited to have them here tonight with us. I see that Mr. Sirkowski is not with you. No? No. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and read the declaration for them, and then I have a certificate for each one of the team members and Mr. Sirkowski for you guys to keep. Certificate of recognition is presented to Wilmot Union High School Academic Decathlon Team. Whereas Kenosha County is proud of the Wilmot Union High School Academic Decathlon Team who captured the 2016 Division II United States Academic Decathlon Championship at the end of April for the second year in a row. And whereas the United States Academic Decathlon is a 10-event scholastic competition for teams of high school students covering art, mathematics, economics, music, essay, science, interview, social science, language, literature, and speech. And whereas the team, led by Coach Don Sirkowski, includes honors members Carly Banky, Carl Simmons, and Brenna Simmons, scholastic members Joseph Burba, Alexa Lewis, and Isaac Bruley, and varsity members Angela Schumacher, Ashley Dabbs, and Kyle Kostrova. And whereas Carl Simmons, Joseph Berber, and Angela Schumacher earned top overall gold in the respective division, Isaac Bruley earned overall silver in the scholastic division, Carly Banky was voted most valuable player by her teammates, and Carl Simmons was the top scorer across all divisions. And whereas the team medaled in 9 out of 10 events, with individual gold medals going to Carl Simmons in economics, music, and science, Joseph Berber in science, art, and economics, Isaac Bruley in music and social science, Angela Schumacher in economics, and Ashley Dabbs in mathematics and art. And whereas the Wilmot Union High School Academic Decathlon team's accomplishments and winning attitude are a source of pride not only for their families and their school, but for the entire Kenosha County community. Now therefore, we, Jim Cruiser, Kenosha County Executive, and Kimberly Brunick, County Board Chairwoman, together with the County Board of Supervisors, do hereby present the Certificate of Recognition to the Wilmot Union High School Academic Decathlon team in recognition and appreciation for their hard work and determination in capturing the Division II National Championship at the United States Academic Decathlon, We are extremely proud of their achievements and honored to claim them as true and model representatives of our community. Thank you. I put them on the spot, but this is what they do.
We'd like to thank everyone for recognizing us tonight. It's been a lot of work this past year, and we were happy to see you last year and again this year. Academic Decathlon, as she said, is a series of 10 competitions. It's art, econ, literature, math, music, science, social science, and 3 subjective: speech, interview, and essay. We've been working for 11 months to achieve this goal, and we were honored to be able to represent Kenosha County in Alaska to achieve our goal of being first in our division. Thank you.
I got your name right this time. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to open it up to citizen comments. Citizen comments, you will have 5 minutes to speak. Please state your name and address for the record. Oh, hold on. Okay.
Meeting, we had our, I'm sorry?
Could you repeat that, please?
I live at, Deborah Shimkus. I live at 11008 67th Place, Kenosha, Wisconsin. We just had our meeting with Law and Judiciary, and yes, they have passed the minutes and approved our raises. So thank you all for doing that and taking the time. The questions we have is, we applaud the pay raise, but why, if the money is there, the $500,000, not implement the whole project at once? Will additional raises be based on performance reviews? We have gone this route before with no one receiving an increase, and we can't all lack in our job duties. We haven't seen the hard numbers regarding the increases, although Bob Riedel says that he will get those to us, and I am sure that he'll take care of that for us. When the supervisors got their raises, did they get theirs all at one time? I would like to also present some facts regarding our request for the 8 paid holidays that we could use towards our short weeks. We are scheduled for 8 actual weekends with our families per year. Short weeks fall every quarter on our actual Saturdays and Sundays off. We not only don't spend time with our families during the year, but we are now forced to not spend time with them when they are available. I also wonder if the savings is not only on paper. Some of us work the week before a time and a half to make up for our short week. I understand that the deputies also receive no holidays, but make up for this in their 15-minute tab. Why not give all employees exempt status and provide short weeks for them as well? They can work the OT to make up for it. Here are some facts that are posted on the internet by corrections.com. Correctional officers have the 2nd highest mortality rate of any occupation. A CO's 58th birthday, on average, is his last. COs on average live only 18 months after retirement. COs have a 39% higher suicide rate than any other occupation. COs have a higher divorce and substance abuse rate than the general public. We are fortunate that this is not a trend in our jail, but nonetheless, it should be considered as the extra shifts required to make the 80-hour paycheck takes its toll on everyone, including our families. When Act 10 was enacted, it took away our right to bargain. Somehow it seems by many to have gone awry, and the jail seems to be taking the brunt of the cost savings for the county. How can this be? Immigrations and USMs provide on average $3.8 million of revenue yearly based on 150 inmates at $70 per day. This money is also counted on by government to fund other groups and needs. I understand this need by the local government, but as the sheriff has stated, this money could disappear as fast as it came at any point. What then? Who will be next? You go home and have weekends with your families. You can attend graduations, birthday parties, and church without having to use PTO time or do a swap with a coworker, at times forcing you to work a 16-hour shift. At first, your family supports you and will work around this, but they eventually stop because everyone else has the day off. If you look at the cities with the highest cost of living in the U.S., you will find that Milwaukee and Madison rank in the top 50. This being said, it's not cheap to live here. Having to work the overtime to make up for those 8 hours is a huge stress on everyone. If you're worried about the taxpayers, let me remind you that the majority of us in this room pay ourselves to come to work. Let me end by saying, all public safety officers put themselves in harm's way for the betterment of the community. Their health and safety, as indicated in the facts I have provided, should be a priority. Is there a price on this?
Thank you. Any other citizens? Please state your name and address for the record. You have 5 minutes to speak.
Thank you. My name is Dan Campion. I live at 11303 232nd Avenue in Trevor. I'm also on the Salem Town Board as a supervisor. Occasionally I come to this meeting, especially if it has something to do with the town of Salem. So far this evening, looks like it's a clean slate, so we're in good condition. But I also want to give you a little bit of an update of what's happening in the town of Salem. Many of you have probably been reading the newspaper and different articles regarding the discussions that we're having with the Village of Silver Lake. I want to announce to you that on June 16th at 7 o'clock in the town of Salem Town Hall, and on June 21st at 7 o'clock, we're going to have 2 meetings that are first and second public information meetings. You're more than welcome to attend. Please do, and like to see you there. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Citizens' comments? Please state your name and address.
Denise Bell, 4223 29th Avenue, Kenosha, Wisconsin. Good evening, Board Supervisors. At last week's meeting, there were some confusion based, not this meeting, at the Judiciary and Law Committee. There was some confusion based on what members of the jail staff, corrections, ARS, and cooks had brought up during citizen comments in terms of holidays. Supervisor Skalitsky asked questions and follow-up questions to members of the Sheriff's Administration, which consisted of Captain Hallisey, Sheriff Beth, Chief Deputy Smith, as well as Personnel Director Bob Riedel. To gain some clarity and provide a more clear understanding of what we are requesting from the County Board, the Sheriff's Department, and personnel is as follows. I'm going to use 4 groups of employees for my explanation that work for the county. Clerical, who work Monday through Friday. Deputies and correctional corporals, who work a 5-day on, 2-day off schedule. 5-day on, 3-day off schedule, so 5-2, 5-3. Dispatch, who works 4 days on, 2 days off, 4 days on, 2 days off, 5 days on, 2 days off. And jail staff, which includes correctional officers, direct supervision officers, kitchen staff, and admission and release specialists, all of which are non-supervisory positions and are not on salary or under protective status. We work 4 days on, 2 days off, 5 days on, 2 days off. Mr. Riedel, our Director of Personnel, distributed a list of 2016 holidays, of which are New Year's Day, Good Friday, Memorial Day, Independence Day, Labor Day, Thanksgiving Day, Day after Thanksgiving, Christmas Eve Day, Christmas Day, New Year's Eve Day. Those are the 10 holidays that the county recognizes and allows for the employee base to be off and compensated for pay. This was sent on October 15th, 2015 via email to the entire county workforce. Clerical, our Monday through Friday group, work approximately 250 days for a total of 2,000 hours. They are paid for 2,080 because they get 80 hours of holiday pay. 10 paid holidays that I've listed above. Those days that they are paid for are for the days they did not work but were compensated. Dispatch, who works 4-2-4-2-5-2, works approximately 249 days for a total of 1,992 hours. However, they are paid for 2,080 hours. They are given compensation for 88 hours approximately, or 11 days approximately, to reach 2,080 hours a year. 10 of those days are the holidays that I've listed above. These are all days that they did not work but were compensated for. Deputies and correctional corporals Both work a 5-2-5-3 and work approximately 244 days. They work a total of 1,952 hours, however, they are paid for 2,080 hours. They are compensated for approximately 16 days that they do not work, 10 of those days being 10 holidays that I've listed above. Jail Division correctional staff, DSOs, COs, admission and release specialists, and kitchen personnel work a 5-2-4-2 schedule and work 252 days. We work a total of 2,016 hours, and this is where the discrimination comes into play. We are not paid for 2,080 hours, of which this classification compensation study survey was based upon. We are not compensated for those 10 holidays that I've listed above. This results in 8 short paychecks that do not equal 80 hours paid every 2 weeks. These short weeks, where we are only paid for 72 hours, always fall when we are scheduled to be off on a Saturday-Sunday rotations. Why are we treated differently? Why are we being discriminated against? Are we not like the other employees? We have families, we have bills. Why must we suffer? Sheriff Beth, I ask you, why did you come after us? Why did you feel it was okay to attack us? The primary responsibility of the sheriff is to run the county jail, yet you discriminate against your largest entity under your command. Are we not valuable to the cause or the mission statement? Why is it that we are the only entity in the entire county who are being targeted? Why are we the only entity being discriminated against? Board supervisors, you asked what some of the reasons are for officers leaving the job, and the sheriff's administration hits on some of them. People have sought other job opportunities somewhere else, and many people use this job as a stepping stone to get on the road with law enforcement agency.
Thank you. Please state your name and address.
Carlos Gerena, Gerena, 7312 98th Ave. What the administration did not tell you, that many of the junior officers that I've trained, because I'm an FTO, are not aware of the short weeks when they get hired. They're not aware that the county no longer pays for insurance once we retire. In short, they felt deceived. Others don't have faith in supervision and administration because they felt deceived. This is unfair treatment. This unfair treatment comes with this unfair treatment comes negative perceptions and opinions. The fact that the leadership is unwilling to treat us fairly adds to negativity. Why would employees of our caliber choose to stay with a job that they feel exhibits poor leadership? Why would they choose to subject themselves to a job that gives them no respect and leaves them feeling underappreciated alongside being undercompensated? Many of the senior officers that have recently retired due to unfair treatment. They were simply fed up with the crap. I can look you all in the eye and tell you I know of 11 officers right now looking for other employment elsewhere, whether it's in different departments or out of law enforcement altogether. Many of them have applications with Lake County, a job that starts at $24.80. Still more than what we top out at. I asked the Sheriff Administration how do they plan to keep those if they choose to leave. The Sheriff stated that we're given 2 PTO days to offset the 8 hours, or 8 days short weeks. The accurate truth is only everybody in the county was given 1 PTO day. When they began to attack correction side, officers with 15 plus years also lost their 5th week of vacation, which at one time was an incentive to stay around. We also lost 1 DZ day, or discretionary day, going from 6 to 5. Mr. Rito quoted stating that we don't get ordered on our short weeks, which is just not true. We do get forced on our short weeks. We also advise that we only get forced 4 to 5 times a year, which is also not true. We get forced more than 4 and 5 times a year. Recently, several officers got ordered 3 times in a row in 1 pay week. Supervisor Skalitsky stated that, and I quote, "We're essential employees because criminals don't take days off," and he's absolutely right. We are essential. We are the backbone of the Sheriff's Department, and we're the backbone of the county. We bring in significant revenue with our immigration U.S. Marshal contracts, of which the department is paid $70 a head, a day. As Captain Hallisey stated in the meeting last week, we are slotted for approximately 190 federal inmates or detainees. We currently, at this time, today, 243. which is approximate revenue of $17,010 each day. That would take only 15 days to cover $265,000 that Mr. Reed said that would cost to pay us. In short, we're simply asking to stop the discrimination in which we are targeted and affected, which has been targeting and affecting the jail staff since Act 10 took place. Nothing in Act 10 says to attack us or strip us of our equality, but someone thought it would be a great idea because they viewed us as not being valued assets. We want equality, we want to be treated fairly, and we want the respect that we deserve. Let me be clear, we're not asking for additional days off that many may have interpreted. We're asking to be compensated for 8 of the 10 holidays that everybody else in the entire county has been compensated, so that we no longer have short pay periods. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak? Please state your name and address.
Hi, Lindley Capellish, 4208 Washington Road, apartment 310. I also work in the jail. I am not a correctional officer. I am an admission and release specialist, which is the right hand of these guys back here doing the hard work, and we're on the other side doing all the paperwork. And, you know, when we started this job, you know, 11 years ago, they did have it compensated to where you had weekends every 6 weeks, 2 3-day weekends to spend with your family, and you got holiday pay. So you worked the holidays, of course, but you got another day off between January and October. Now we work 5-2-4-2. It takes us 3 months to get to our weekends, and it is our short week, as Carlos has said. So we now have to come in on our day off to get a full paycheck and take away the weekend with our family that it took us 3 months to get to. We just want what is fair. I don't understand why the county has the holiday pay, but we do not. We didn't ask for this current schedule, this 5-2-4-2 that created these short weeks. Family time is very important, and we're all willing to work this schedule of a 24/7 job because it needs to be done, and our families understand, but it gets to a point where enough is enough. And I think the morale is horrible. People are looking for other jobs, myself included, and I have been. And unless something changes, you're going to lose really good workers that have been here a long time. So we just ask for that. You know, the correctional officers are receiving in their study a pay raise. I am an admission and release specialist. There's 19, 20 of us. We are not in that study. We are not getting a raise. So we will not get that additional pay. But I always work my short week. I go and I work it. I can't afford not to get a full paycheck. I'm raising a family I need to support. So what we're looking for is fairness. And to realize that the job that we do is very difficult, it's very stressful, and we would like to be compensated accordingly and just have it fair. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name and address.
Matt Flynn, 7945 18th Avenue in Kenosha. I'm also the owner of Sophistic Catering in Kenosha and Sheridan Road. And I guess I'm here to make sure that all the county supervisors are aware of the issues we're having with Kemper Center. On May 17th, we had a meeting with the county exec. I have not heard one word back on it. I have clients that need answers, and I'm not getting them. I have nothing to provide to them. Mr. Frederick, you were in that meeting. I guess the questions I have are, number one, is our contract valid with Kemper Center? Because I was told at the meeting it was not. I have bookings going through the summer. They want to know whether we can cater their wedding, their alumni meetings. We don't know. We don't know what to tell them. We aren't getting answers back. What's happening at Kemper Center, if nobody's aware of it, they need to look into it. And if they don't, I'm sure they're going to find out within the next month or so, because there's a lot of upset people here. There's a whole row of them over there. At least one or two of them can address the other issues, but I have to get back to my customers to let them know, A, do we cater there? B, what are the charges? I can tell you last year we catered events that generated over $20,000 of commissions to Kemper Center. This year we haven't catered anything yet, and I don't know if we are going to cater anything there, but we generated a ton of money last year in catering after we were out for 18 years, banned for other reasons, which if you get information from our meeting of the 17th with the county exec, you'll find out what those are. And I guess that's all I have to say with that.
Thank you. Please state your name and address.
Ian Burns, 3710 10th Avenue, Kenosha. I'm here to echo Matt's complaints here and draw your attention to the county response or lack thereof to serious ongoing issues between our community and the county leasee known as Kemper Center LTD. I think few here would most of you would agree with the statement that Kemper is one of our greatest assets here in the county. It's a draw for people here. It's a beautiful location on the lake. So I'm kind of flabbergasted as to why this board has stood by as this community resource has descended into cronyism and this insular reaffirmation of the policies that they continue to perpetuate. I draw your attention to just a couple of cases, and I will end my time here. There have been multiple cases of mistreatment of female employees, denying unemployment, firing with undue cause. There's been preferential treatment of favorite vendors, which has been a great disservice to our area, which is a thriving wedding industry, which is primarily what Kemper Center does, right? They host weddings, they host events, right? I'd like to ask the board if they've been privy to any of the ongoing correspondence between the multiple aggrieved parties and Kemper Center LTD that has been going on since May 17th. Do we have a plan? I haven't heard a word. I've sent 15 emails, 12, 15 emails. I haven't heard a word. I'd ask the board to then reconsider the relationship between the county and Kemper Center Limited. They rent that property from the county for $1 a year, and they've done so since the 1970s. And we put tens of thousands of dollars of our taxpayer money into it. What is happening with that money? Where is it going? The building's falling apart. Finally, I would just ask that committee members take a moment to review what happened, the meeting, the minutes that happened on May 17th, and the emails and the file that has been accrued regarding Kemper Center and these problems, and act on their own. I mean, I'm under the understanding there is a permanent member of the board that is attached to what is happening at the Kemper Center, right, that should be present at board meetings. I don't know if that's happening or not, but certainly the response has not been the appropriate one. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name and address.
My name is Lois Bruno, 4995 89th Place. I sent to you, Kim, my statement from what had happened in my 10 weeks at Kemper Center. I had spent the prior 10 years of my life working for Rabbi Dina Feingold as the temple administrator for Beth Hillel Temple. And a year ago, in June, I was offered a position with Kemper Center, and they knew the details of the limitations that I had for hours that I could work. I was assured, without a doubt, encouraged that my son, who's on the autism spectrum, would be welcome to be part of my day when necessary at Kemper Center. When I started there, I was given a job description and told I was going to be the face of Kemper Center. Gary Valancourt was going to change the atmosphere there. My first day of work, I showed up in a dress and heels, and I walked into an office with dead bugs, littered with trash, cobwebs. I cleaned before I could sit down on that chair. It got worse. The second day I was there, I was pulled into an office while he went on and on and on about his disappointment with my colleague. I became very aware of a complete miscommunication. The president of Kemper Center never shows up for work. When he does, he's there for a couple of hours. Nothing got done. The technology is out of date, and by the 9th or 8th week I was there, he was complaining about my productivity because I wasn't getting anything done, but I couldn't get anything done. There was no technology, they have no database, they had no way to report, they had no way to run labels. And the whole situation culminated in my witnessing verbal abuse. I was on the first floor sitting in an office with no heat in October, and I heard yelling and yelling from the second floor. And then I went to the stairwell and I could hardly breathe. I was so scared. And I heard my colleague crying. The next week, that incident came up in a meeting that had nothing to do with that situation, and all of a sudden it was presented to me that this had happened, but I shouldn't be upset because it happened to her and not to me. And I said, I'm sorry, but you humiliated her. And the person that you have in charge of Kemper Board said maybe she deserved to be humiliated. My protest that that wasn't right brought to me a termination. I was terminated from my job for those comments, for saying no, I couldn't work where a situation where someone deserved to be humiliated. And I was fired due to my limitations as far as my son is concerned, because I have to advocate for him. I have not yet been able to obtain another position. I've been out of work since the end of October. I've never been fired in my life. I'm 56 years old, and I'm not very marketable in today's standards. I am really questioning why we as county members, as county taxpayers, are subsidizing Kemper Center's general operations at $100,000 a year, plus the additional amount that's put into a building that is being allowed to crumble into nothing. I had to go buy bathroom cleaning supplies when I started there. That's the situation. I welcome each one of you to take a tour of Kemper Center, a real tour, not just the conference center where everything is clean and spiffed up. Go into Ambrose, go onto the 4th floor, the 3rd floor, and take a look for yourself. I think your experience there will be more than informative. And if nothing else, the fact that someone would say that another human being deserves to be humiliated, and the county is the one that has put that person in charge, is wrong. It's just wrong. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name and address.
Annette Flynn, 7945 18th Avenue. I ditto what Ian and Matt and some of what Lois said. I wasn't privy of all the information, but I would like to add that the other day, Saturday, there was the event that took place at Kemper Center. It made a slight little spot in the Kenosha News about the melee that took place in Founders Hall. Slowly disappeared from the Kenosha News. I've done my homework on this event. It was a social media event that was created on Facebook. Admission was charged to attend this event at $25 a person. They invited like 300 to 400 people to this event. There are videos that are out there that have streamed on social media of the wreckage that took place in Founders Hall, which is all hush-hush with Kemper Center. They said it was just a party of 30 people and candy was thrown. There are pans of food that was thrown in Founders Hall, pictures that were taken down, chairs, tables. As a caterer, working with Matt, I fear for the safety of my employees and us that work events next door. The wedding that took place at Simmons Auditorium had to end early because of this event. And I guess I'd like answers as to why we are booking events like this that just bring in a measly $1,000 with no food, no beverage. However, they manage to bring in food from somewhere, they manage to bring in alcohol and destroy a place that taxpayers support. I fear for the next event that we do have to cater there, and if an event like this were to happen, I'd tell my staff to get out of there. The police couldn't even handle what was going on there. These videos are out there, the social media page is there. I guess I'd like answers as to why a property like this is booking events like this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other citizens' comments? Citizen comments? Seeing no other citizen comments, we are now closed. Announcements of the chair. The county clerk has the county board photo. It's an 8x10 for $25. If anyone wants to see it, they can come see it after the meeting. Supervisor reports will now be consisting just of committee reports and any upcoming events. If you want to speak on any particular topic, please call the clerk's office and have it put on the agenda for the following meeting. We have several of our youth and governance here today. We have actually a full house on both sides. We have Emma Hellis-Kevener with Legislative, Andrew Corley with Finance and Administration, Felix Desimoni with Planning, Development, Extension, Education, Morgan Kalamaga with Joint Services, Sydney Robson with Judiciary and Law, Mikkel Miles with PDEC, and Madeline LaCroix with Judiciary and Law. So this is the first time that we've had this many youth and governance in attendance. Thank you. That's all that I have, so we will move on to supervisor reports. Supervisor Rose, you have the floor.
All right, thank you, Chair. I've heard this evening some comments about Kemper that I think many of us were unaware of, and we do have a representative on that board. I would like to request that at the next meeting that you calendar that issue and some of the...
Supervisor Rose, I'm going to ask you to hold your comments. We're going to only have committee reports and upcoming events. Thank you.
All right, when can I raise this issue then?
You would have to agenda it.
Well, I disagree. I think this is an issue of immediate concern, and I cannot believe that at some point on the agenda a supervisor can't raise something of a timely as such as this and request such a report. If that be the chair, if that is the ruling, then I would move to overrule the chair on that ruling. Because it just doesn't make sense that you cannot respond to something as urgent as that I have to wait a meeting. That doesn't seem right at all. And
Supervisor Rose, if you let Corporation Counsel, he will respond to that.
Well,
excuse me. I think the point Supervisor Rose is trying to make is that he's asking for a report. Is that correct, Supervisor Rose?
Yes, I am asking for that report.
Okay.
I'm not asking for a report this evening. I'm asking that that issue be calendared for the next meeting in light of a citizen's comments. I think that is fair. I think it's the responsive thing to do. I don't think that I have to calendar a call to the fire department if I see a fire.
Supervisor Rose, I would agree. I think the point here would be, I don't also know that you need to make that request as part of the meeting. I think you could speak to the chair after the meeting and ask that this be placed on the next agenda.
Well, I think that that's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is to assure those people who have a problem that we have heard it. And again, I'm going to move to overrule the decision of the chair because whether it be me or some other supervisor who wants to respond to an issue of immediate importance, I think it is unreasonable to suggest that we'll take it up at some other time. That's not what we're paid to do.
Although, just so that I'm clear, Supervisor Rose, you do in fact want to take it up at another time. You don't want to take it up at this evening's meeting.
That is correct, but I think that as a supervisor, either myself or anyone on this board can request that an issue be addressed at the next meeting and so calendared, and that can be publicly stated so that those people who have the problem know that at least we're going to address it. I'm not taking a position on the problem. I don't want to know what the facts are, and I want to know what the response of those who administer Kemper Center is. I'm the supervisor from that district. I think we have a right to know. We're spending $100,000. Every year we put money in the capital budget on that. This is something that I think publicly the general public needs to know. It's not just this issue, it's whatever issue.
Supervisor Rose, I understand your point. We will make sure that there is a report that is brought forward.
Very good. But by that, I appreciate that. I support it. But I think the rest of the supervisors ought to be assured that they also can make that request at another meeting and won't be ruled out of order. That's why I made the motion to overrule the decision of the chair.
Thank you. Supervisor Elverman, you have the floor.
Thank you. As chairman of the committee that oversees the Kemper Center, I will assure Supervisor Rose, and he and I heard this together for the first time. I haven't heard any of this. My committee hasn't had any reports on any of this. So believe me, after hearing this evening, as a person that had his last wedding at the Kemper Center, not more than a year and a half ago, I'm very interested in the property. I have a report on the property tonight, and our committee will be giving a report in 2 weeks, or at our next meeting, once I find out the information.
Thank you. Did you want to continue with your report?
Yes. A couple of the boring things I've been reporting on, the ash trees, it's still ongoing. We're
Point of order, there's a motion on the floor that was seconded that needs to be addressed first, correct? Yes.
Okay.
Motion to overrule.
To overrule.
The decision of the chair.
So there was a first by Supervisor Rose and a second by Supervisor Gable. We will have to raise our hands as it's not working. So all those in favor?
Wait a minute.
Can the motion be discussed?
Oh, go ahead. All right, I've cleared the board. Who wants to discuss?
We can do roll call.
Oh, Corporation Counsel says that this is not debatable.
I'd like to make a point of personal privilege.
State your point.
I would like, I think it's unfair that we're not considering what has been discussed. Last week we talked about this, and I know that Supervisor Bostrom is going to make comments about things that I made a comment about. That's fine. I don't know why that can't be done in some type of supervisor comment section, that we have to have that put in this regards. If this is my point of personal privilege, Madam Chair, so I'm entitled to speak to this, okay? If it's an issue that is not for discussion, and you feel that it is part of a business, you could overrule it. I understand that. But to shut it off, I think, is not the proper way to do this. So I would appreciate some consideration to what I think Mr. Rose and I think Supervisor Bostrom are talking about. That's what I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Bostrom.
And I guess to follow up my colleague here, not to debate the subject, but to offer an opinion of privilege, I think is how you stated it. Coming from a different body of politic to now the county board, I've been trying my best to be very aware of the rules and traditions of this body and respectful of that. But by the same token, Supervisor Rose and Supervisor Retlaf have a excellent point, that if there is an opinion that a supervisor would like to express, there should be a mechanism for them to express it. I asked for my agenda item to be placed in the supervisory comments because that was how I understood the rules to be of this body. But if there's something that arises during the meeting, there also should be a mechanism for us to comment on, to give an opinion. As Supervisor Rose put it, and I think rightfully so, the people that came, that took the time out of their day to come here and talk to us about an issue deserve to at least understand that we're listening, that something will be done. So to that regard, if there's a rule change that needs to be made, I think the legislative commission or committee needs to take a look at that. Those are my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Bostrom. Supervisor Rose, you have the floor.
Thank you. I think we need to overrule the decision of the chair unless we're very clear that we can bring these issues, as I've suggested tonight, immediately to the attention of the board and have them agended at the next meeting. And that's why I've asked for the chair's ruling to be overruled. I don't want to leave tonight's meeting and be uncertain as to whether or not myself or somebody else will be shut down because it's not on the agenda. How could I possibly put it on the agenda tonight, not even knowing that these people were going to be here and raise an issue that I was unaware of? I did see the very small article in the newspaper, and I believe that was today, and it raised my concern. But how else are we to suggest to the public, yes, we will look into what you've said, but we have to do it quietly, unknown, after the meeting? That makes no sense to any of us. So we don't have to, in conclusion, we don't have to overrule your decision. I will withdraw the motion, provided that we are assured that we can do exactly what I did this evening. If we're not so assured, I stick with my motion, overrule the decision of the chair, then we have a new rule. Then we know we can do it in the future. We make the rules. Nobody else makes the rules here. This is our body, and we govern it. So let us respond there, too.
Thank you, Supervisor Rose. I don't have a problem with people asking for reports being brought to the board floor. I do want to make sure that the comments that are being made are short and succinct, and they are non-debatable. If anyone has a problem with that, they can see me afterwards. Supervisor Hallman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have no desire to overrule the chair. What I will say is this. I know that when I first came here, this was an item that I actually looked at to try to see what was the difference between practice versus what we had in policy as far as rules. I know there are members of the City Council that do things differently in regard to this matter, and they've often questioned why we do things the way that we do. I've never been able to give them a substantive answer, but I've also never been willing to fight them on it either. So it seems to me this might be perhaps a good area for you, Madam Chair, if you so wish, to have a conversation with Corporation Counsel to see how maybe we can meet halfway in the middle. Maybe there's something that we can put in place through the Legislative Committee as far as our rules of procedure that addresses this, while still gives you the freedom and the discretion as chair to do as necessary. I can tell you now, I don't necessarily know what that is because I haven't given it much thought, but I'm certainly there has to be some sort of compromise we can come to fix this, because quite frankly, this is very embarrassing. We're much better than this. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Hallman. Supervisor Boyd Frederick, you have the floor.
Thank you. I was in the queue to be waiting, but what I was going to say for the Legislative Committee, if there were any changes in the rules, please get them to me before next meeting or at the next meeting so we can get them on the agenda for the July meeting. So if there's a change that you want to see happen, please let me know before the next county board meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Frederick. Supervisor Rose, did you wish to speak again?
No, just to clarify, my motion to overrule is still on the floor because I'm unclear on what the chair's ruling would be in the event that some other supervisor raised the issue as I have tonight. So just to be clear, I think we have to take a vote on that.
Okay. Any other?
I have a question through the chair to Mr. Rose. Is your motion tended to allow us to bring up things that can go on future agendas? Is that all you're doing?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Based on the chairwoman's look, I think we need this clarified before we take a vote on it. really.
Supervisor Gens, did you just ask Supervisor Rose if it was his intent to put things on future agendas?
I think, yeah, I did.
Supervisor Rose, was it your intent to just be able to talk about them on the board floor?
Well, I thought yes, I thought that what I was saying was that you should agenda the next meeting, a report from either Mr. Frederick, who is our representative on the Kemper board, or the president of that organization, and respond to these issues. And you said I couldn't do that because it was not on the agenda, and therefore I was out of order. And my response was, that doesn't make any sense, because how can we publicly respond to an immediate issue that is presented to us and let those people who have that issue know that we're going to act? That's what politicians are supposed to do. You got a problem and we're supposed to at least react to it. It's either we're going to do something about it, or there was no issue here. But at least we want a response, and we want it publicly done. I don't think that's much to ask, and I don't know why we're debating this. It's not, that kind of thing is never out of order.
Thank you. With the chair's, sorry, I've got a cold and my brain is fuzzy.
Of course.
I had advised the chair that the remarks are out of order on the basis of the fact that, on principle, supervisors should not be directly responding to citizen comments because of the open meetings law and the fact that these are not agenda items. They are not matters that are before the board. They are not matters that have been publicly noticed as items that are going to be discussed. That having been said, perhaps I was hasty in advising the chair to call the request out of order. I am advising the chair that if a future request is made based on a citizen comment asking for future action at a future meeting, and it is clear that it is not discussed, debated, or taken up at that meeting, that I do not believe such a motion would be out of order.
Well, thank you. I agree, and I think that's all I was really asking for. I'd withdraw the proposal here and would expect that the next agenda that we would have the appropriate discussion on the Kemper problem, whatever that may be. But I think the administration of Kemper needs to inform us, not in writing, but here.
Supervisor Rose has withdrawn his motion. Supervisor Gable, do you concur?
Yeah, and I would assume, Chair, that if such a problem in the future arose on any issue, a supervisor could say, I'd like to have this addressed at the next meeting. That seems sensible. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Rose. Supervisor Boyd Frederick, you have the floor.
Thank you. Are we back on supervisor comments?
Reports.
Because that's what I originally had my light on for. Supervisor reports.
There are supervisor reports, and I do have one more person on the board. So Supervisor Grady, you have the floor.
Thank you. I'd like to speak on this, and I think it could be simply resolved much as the chair will assign certain committees to take up certain topics. You as chairwoman could take up the responsibility and say, yes, we'll address this issue by the legislative committee at the next county board meeting or whoever's appropriate, just as we do in other board matters. So I think it's easily done, and that's what I'd recommend. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Grady. All right, I am going to clear the board again, and we're going to go to supervisor reports, please. Supervisor Elverman, you have the floor.
Thank you. I'll skip the ash borer thing. The big uptick on that is that we have our at-risk youth group coming in for their 30-day stint on June 20th, and that's they're going to start on the cleanup of that. On the Kemper Center, we are collecting data with a consultant on the storm damage that we had from the nor'easter out there. Every spot is specific. So the data is very important. What is long-term and short-term solutions out there are huge, and it's different from 80 yards down the shoreline. So we're not spending any money right now, just on the data collection. KD Park, we have the plans being put together for the first parking lot and road, paved road, going into that park with the boat launch for the dive teams to practice and for the rescue squads to practice, and for all the park users to park in. Fox River Park is being paved at this time, could be done as of today. We have a new Fox River Water Trail that we're going to be having a ribbon cutting on June 22nd at 9 a.m. at the boat launch in Fox River Park. I said the youth are starting. Highway Department, this is very good news. With the local road improvement plan having money available this year, we are going to be paving 17.24 miles of roads, which is almost 5 miles more than we were able to do last year. That won't be an every year thing. We've been in the 13-mile range, but this year is a real bonus. Costs are down from historic costs on asphalt, so we're going to be doing quite well. The fuel system I've been reporting on at the Highway Department, unlike the roof at the Highway Department that was a couple $100,000 below estimates, this fuel system thing is giving us trouble, and we're still bouncing ideas on how to make this affordable, but get a much needed situation taken care of. Golf courses have had a rough spring, but the past 2 weekends have brought them up and around. Our irrigation is still not completed out there because of the wet spring. I think I'll keep it brief. We've got a couple items that we sent to the Finance Committee last evening, resolutions that our committee unanimously approved, and they are on a public safety building generator that needs to be replaced. That is going to be a cost overrun from what was estimated, so we had to move money around again within the system. No new spending. We have another resolution like that, so I'll be reporting on that. And I will be, I think in the past all we've done is committee chair hearing something like this at a meeting. I agree, I do not ever want to respond to citizens' comments because we'd be hours here responding to citizens' comments. But since our committee heard it, we'll be taking that up. I mean, that'll be the first call I make tomorrow morning unless I, can talk to someone this evening. But we definitely have not heard one word of any problems at the Kemper Center.
Thank you, Supervisor Overman. Supervisor Boyd Frederick, you have the floor.
Thank you. I provided a biography along with an article by Craig Thompson, who will be coming to our next meeting right before the county board meeting. He will also be talking briefly at the county board meeting, talking about the state roads and funding for those state roads. Also, with the person who's on legislative committee with youth and governments, if she wants to see me after the meeting, I'll give her the same information.
Thank you, Supervisor Frederick. Supervisor Wamble, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a very important event to share with you all. I am a proud member of Kenosha Triad, which is an organization whereby law enforcement, community organizations, and senior citizens all work together to maintain or raise the quality of life for those senior citizens. The purpose of Triad is to promote older adult safety and to reduce the fear of crime that older adults often experience. So tonight I placed on each of your desks a flyer that looks like this for an upcoming Triad Safety Fair being held on June 15th at Gateway Technical College in the Matagrano Auditorium. This event is free of charge and will offer blood pressure screens, safe assured ID kits, balance screens, on-site shredding, and much more, including a panel discussion on scams, personal safety, and how senior citizens can protect their personal finances. I plan on emailing this flyer to each of you, and I hope that you will attend and help get the word out by telling your friends and family, and especially the older generation, about this event, and maybe even post it to your Facebook pages. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Supervisor Wamble. Supervisor Blau, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to give a quick reminder to everybody that Bike to Work Weeks has started. It started June 5th. It's going on through June 18th. We're hoping that everybody will consider riding their bikes there. Tell your friends and family. You can register on our county website to win fabulous prizes. The more you ride, the more chances or opportunities you'll have to win. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Blau. Seeing no other lights, we will close supervisor reports. County Clerk.
County Executive Appointments, Michael Underhill to serve on the Kenosha County Library System Board.
Refer to Finance and Administration.
Old Business Ordinance, second reading to required from Supervisor Kubicki and the Legislative Committee regarding amendment of MCKC Chapter 3.01, filling of vacancies occurring within a term. Boyd Frederick, yes. Hallman, yes. Berg, yes. Decker, yes. Franco, yes. Poole, excused. Skalitsky, yes.
Supervisor Kubicki.
I move ordinance number 3, Madam Chair.
I have a first by Supervisor Kubicki and a second by Supervisor Boyd Frederick. Supervisor Kubicki.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd first like to thank the Legislative Committee for their unanimous support of ordinance number 3. I basically wanted to clean up the language of the previous ordinance by adding the female gender to the contents of the ordinance. As you all know, we all supported Kenosha County's first female chair this past spring. Additionally, I wanted the language to be clarified to give direction to the chairperson in charge when a supervisor steps down during their term in office. Thank you for your support in this matter.
Thank you, Supervisor Kubicki. This is a simple majority. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Ordinance 4 from Planning Development Extension Education Committee, an ordinance regarding amendments to Chapter 17, Kenosha County Stormwater, Erosion Control, and Illicit Discharge Ordinance. Decker excused, Poole yes, Skalitsky yes, Gilmore yes, Bostrom excused.
Supervisor Poole, you have the floor.
I move ordinance 4.
I have a first by Supervisor Poole, second by Supervisor Skalitsky. Supervisor Poole.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ordinance 4 is amendments to Chapter 17 of the Kenosha County Stormwater, Erosion Control, and Illicit Discharge Ordinance. The proposed amendments would bring the Kenosha County Municipal Code Chapter 17 ordinance current to allow it to be compliant with conditions mandated by the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources and Wisconsin Pollutant Discharge Elimination System Program, and consistent with performance standards of the Wisconsin Administrative Code Chapter NR 151. The Planning, Development, and Extension Education Committee reviewed this item at its meeting of May 11th, 2016, and recommends approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Poole. This is a simple majority. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
New business, Resolution 10 from Judiciary and Law and Finance and Administration Committees, a resolution to approve correction officers' classification and compensation study. Finance Administration, Rose, yes. Ron Frederick, yes. Kubicki, yes. Retzlaff, yes. Esposito, excused. Dodge, yes. Gens, excused. Brunig, yes. Judiciary and Law, Blau, yes. Boyd Frederick, yes. Retzlaff, yes. Skalitsky, yes. Wamble, yes.
Supervisor Rose.
All right, I would move the resolution before you.
I have a first by Supervisor Rose and a second by Supervisor Blau. Supervisor Rose.
All right, thank you. This resolution is one which was studied by professionals. The report was reviewed by the Finance Administration Committee. And when you're considering a report like this and some of the comments this evening, I think one has to realize that there's no perfect system here. Any proposal on these kinds of work rules or organization of the work week or work day is not going to be supported by everyone. But those who have taken the time to study this, an outside advisor, those who operate the Sheriff's Department, the administration thereof, have supported the issue. It also addresses the issue of what is a fair wage for the people who work there, taking into account the job that they perform and the responsibilities that they discharge and the stresses that they address on a daily basis. So with all of that said, we're certainly would entertain any kind of specific questions. I sort of generally outlined what the support for this involves. If you have some specific questions about specific provisions, I would ask the chair to defer to the chief deputy for a response, or whomever he may, or Mr. Riedel, or whomever they may designate. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Rhodes. Supervisor Gens, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I just have two questions that I'd like answered. The Judiciary and Law kind of wrapped up quickly without really a response to some of the comments, and I know that we've been discussing the holiday situation for years, and my two questions through the chair to either Mr. Riedel or the representative of the Sheriff's Department are, was this study actually compared with all 2080 hours, and this class was not, number one, and number two, was the holiday situation taken into account when the raise was given, or the wage was brought forward? So if somebody could enlighten me on those two issues, I'd appreciate it.
Mine was on.
Anything having to, oh, that's better. It's a long way up here. Anything having to do with the Sheriff's Department's schedule is strictly and totally a matter that has to be taken up with the sheriff. The sheriff establishes the schedule. To the extent that the schedule came into play, clearly it has to, because the wages have to meet and integrate with that schedule. Your question about hours, a work year for a corrections officer is 2,022 hours. When we did the cost comparison, because most of the comparables in the private sector are a 5-2 work week, which is 2,080 hours, we multiplied to make sure we had apples and apples comparison, and then reduced it back to the 2022 so that we could get an accurate wage proposal.
So to clarify what you just said to me is, you built in the fact that it wasn't 2080 into your analysis?
Yes.
Okay. And then as far as the schedule goes, then I would need to speak to someone from the Sheriff's Department.
Yeah, I would. It came up at Finance, and Captain Hallisey responded that there are work groups in the jail, and that the schedule is a regular agenda item, and they have worked and are attempting to work through some alternative. But that as of that date, they hadn't come up with anything. But the sheriff is willing to discuss with the COs the schedule.
Okay. I mean, those are two issues that came up repeatedly in what I heard, and I just wanted to make sure everybody on the board heard that clarification. And if there's any other, questions that anybody has, now you know where to go to get that information. So, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Riedel. Supervisor Gens, did you have anything else?
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Bostrom, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And through the chair, to the gentleman, I apologize. I'm new. I forgot your name, Mr. Riegel. In the short time that I've been here, I've almost exclusively at every meeting I've heard complaints coming from this group of employees. And I'm glad Supervisor Gens asked the question that he did. But I would like to hear directly from the sheriff or whomever might be responsible for answering these questions. Can he answer the questions that were raised by the audience this evening? The forced overtime, the holiday pay, all of these items. for my own information, I would like to know. Because if these employees are being treated unfairly, which I'm not saying they are or aren't,
right.
But in my short period of time, I've heard at every meeting a complaint from this group of employees. I would like the sheriff to answer those questions.
I will relay that information to the sheriff, and I'm guessing he would deal with it at planning and development, or judiciary and law.
Yes.
But I will communicate your concerns directly to him.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Bostrom. Seeing no other lights, this is a simple majority. All those in favor? Roll call has been requested. Is it working?
Yeah, we're good now.
The monitor is working again. Let's try this. All those in favor of passing, vote yes. All those against, vote no. Okay. Oh, there we go.
There it goes.
Motion passes.
Resolution 11 from Judiciary and Law Enforcement Committee, a resolution to approve the appointment of Rick Dodge to serve as a member of the Local Emergency Planning Committee. Blau, yes. Boyd Frederick, yes. Retzloff, yes. Scalitsky, yes. Jeff Wamble, yes.
Supervisor Blau.
Motion to move Resolution 11.
I have a first by Supervisor Blau and a second by Supervisor Boyd Frederick. Supervisor Blau.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is reappointment of Supervisor Rick Dodge to the Emergency Planning Committee. He has attended 8 of the 12 meetings with his 4 absences excused. He will be succeeding himself, and I ask for your approval.
Seeing no lights, this is a simple majority. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Resolution 12 from Judiciary and Law Enforcement Committee, a resolution to approve the appointment of Jim Huff to serve as a member of the Local Emergency Planning Committee. Blau, yes. Boyd Frederick, yes. Retzloff, yes. Scalitsky, yes. Wamble, yes.
Supervisor Blau.
Motion to move Resolution 12.
I have a first by Supervisor Blau and a second by Supervisor Retzloff. Supervisor Blau.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is also a reappointment of Mr. Huff to the Emergency Planning Committee. He has attended 8 of his 11 meetings. His 3 absences were excused. He will be succeeding himself, and I ask for your approval.
Thank you, Supervisor Blau. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Resolution 13 from the Judiciary and Law Enforcement Committee, probationary cabaret license for Shadow Hill Ranch DBA Country Thunder Music Festival. Blau, yes. Boyd Frederick, yes. Retzloff, yes. Scalitsky, yes. Wamble, yes.
Supervisor Blau.
Motion to approve Resolution 13.
I have a first by Supervisor Blau and a second by Supervisor Scalitsky. Supervisor Blau.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The probationary cabaret license was applied for back in, or on June 3rd. Kenosha Sheriff's Department has conducted an inspection of the premises, and they were found to be in conformity with ordinance number listed in our packet there. They had found nothing to be of note, and so I ask for your approval of the cabaret license.
Thank you, Supervisor Blau. Simple majority. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Resolution 14 from the Judiciary and Law Enforcement Committee, activity control license for Country Thunder East LLC. Blau, yes. Boyd Frederick, yes. Retzloff, yes. Scalitsky, yes. Wamble, yes.
Supervisor Blau.
Motion to move Resolution 14.
I have a first by Supervisor Blau and a second by Supervisor Wamble. Supervisor Blau.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is also in regards to Country Thunder. It's the activity control license that the organizer had applied for. The Sheriff's Department did an actual physical inspection of said property, and they found that to be compliant, and therefore we are asking for your support for this activity control license.
Thank you, Supervisor Blau. This is a simple majority. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Resolution 15 from Supervisor Terry Rose, a resolution calling on the Wisconsin State Legislature to pass legislation authorizing psychologists with special training to prescribe medication.
I just refer it, right? Refer to Legislative and Human Services.
Claim, City of Kenosha, damage to squad.
Refer to Corporation Counsel.
Supervisor comments. Supervisor Bostrom will offer rebuttal to comments previously made regarding Uline in the City of Kenosha.
Supervisor Bostrom.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the opportunity to speak on this subject. Last time we were here in the response to an article written in the Kenosha News, there were some comments that were made about the City of Kenosha and the relationship with the development, the Uline development west of I-94. And while certainly I support all my colleagues at whatever point during the agenda is necessary to have comments and reflect upon items that may have occurred during the day, and I also agree that those comments shouldn't be debatable. In this particular case, I had some independent knowledge of what was happening with that development that I could have debated and chose not to, and I think rightfully so. So I kind of wanted to take my time this evening to discuss a little bit as to what had transpired between the city and Uline. Of course, now we also read this morning, if you picked up the Kenosha News, that apparently everything is happy again. The developer did some things that they needed to do. The city did some things they needed to do. The City Council, Public Works, and Board of Water Commissioners did hold a special meeting, not to find out any wrongdoing that might have been done by city staff, but more to accommodate the developer and getting the development moving along today. And as I understand it, today it is moving along. So to that end, happy to see that that's moving along, but as we should all know, development is not easy. Things of these natures take quite a bit of time to work their way through, and I would expect, whether it's the City of Kenosha, Village of Pleasant Prairie, Village of Bristol, or any other municipality, or even the County of Kenosha, I would expect staff and the elected officials to work together to make sure that every developer is held to a high development standard. You only need to look to some of our neighbors to the north or some of our neighbors to the south to see what bad development practices can do to a municipality and the surrounding area. And a strong City of Kenosha is good for the County of Kenosha, just like a strong Summers, strong Bristol, strong Paris, strong Pleasant Prairie, and every other municipality is good for the county. We all should be working together, not against each other. But in light of that, I thought it would be interesting to kind of go through the timeline of how Uline got to where they were today as it relates to the City of Kenosha. In approximately March 2014, the folks from Uline approached the city about this development. And they asked the city to enter into an agreement with unincorporated Paris for the annexation of this property. While that wasn't necessary because Paris is unincorporated, as long as the owners of those property petitioned to come into the city, it was completely allowable. But Uline was concerned because apparently they had a bad experience with Pleasant Prairie and Bristol not playing nice together when they first came up here. They wanted to ensure that everything moved along smoothly. So at Uline's request, the city obliged for this unusual request to enter into this agreement. And this parcel was annexed into the city in July 2014. Uline then purchases the property in October 2014. The next contact Uline had with the city about the development of the site doesn't come until February of 2015. And somewhere around this time, between February and April, the representatives of Uline made another somewhat unusual request from a developer perspective, that they wanted scheduled meetings with all of city staff and department heads scheduled every Tuesday at 10 o'clock to talk about the development, which, again, the city was happy to oblige, but this was also somewhat of an unusual request. I don't recall the developers from Amazon or Kenall making any such request, but in this case, they did accommodate that request. At one of these early meetings, the interim director of Public Works made it pretty clear made it very clear to the developers that any wetland issues or DNR issues would need to be divulged to city staff so that they can work to make sure that all the proper permits were in place so that the development can move along smoothly. They were assured by Uline at that time that they had everything worked out with the DNR, when in fact the issues that they did have with respect to their wetlands weren't actually resolved until just March of this year. Between September 2015 and February 2016, there were no more meetings between the city and the developer. In fact, there was very little communication at all. So as some might have insinuated that the city might have been dragging their heels, certainly that wasn't the case. And then March of this year, the developer agreement came before council, and that's back when I was a member of council. And another unusual occurrence took place at the approval of this developer's agreement. Typically, when you get a developer's agreement such as this size, where there's public improvements that are made by the developer and then turned over to the municipality, irrevocable lines of credit with the developer's bank are put in place, naming the city as a beneficiary to make sure that those public improvements are made correctly. And at the time of this approval, the developer did not have their letter of credits in line. And so what typically would have been done is council would have delayed moving forward on that developer's agreement until those letters of credit were put in place. But because this was Uline and they're a good corporate community member, we made this another unusual request to approve that developer's agreement, knowing that we will get the letter of credit sometime down the road, which we did, the city did, about a month later on April 1st. The final piece of the puzzle, because 128th Avenue is being installed by the developer between 38th Street and 142, there was another parcel of land that was needed to be acquired by the developer in order for this street to go through. And that piece of property wasn't, the purchase wasn't completed until April 7th. So you can kind of see how the timeline, where it was originally described in the newspaper not very accurately, that maybe the city was dragging their heels, and for whatever reason, I can't imagine why. And I'm not suggesting that Uline was dragging their heels either, but in developments such as this, there's a lot of moving parts. And it is incumbent upon the municipality to make sure that whatever public improvements are being made are turned over to the municipality with the taxpayers in mind, not only from a safety perspective, but also from a dollars and cents perspective, because those roads at some point the municipality will have to fix. And one of the conditions that was a problem that popped up here late was the thickness of the road. 128th Avenue was originally, and all the way along through this process, supposed to be 10 inches thick of concrete. And then late in the game here, on the last set of plans, it was changed to 6 inches of asphalt. That was something that was not acceptable to the city. So there were a number of moving parts at play here. And I wanted to make it perfectly clear, not that I blame anybody for any of their comments, certainly based off the information at hand. I can understand why people would jump to that conclusion, but I assure you that the City of Kenosha, city staff is diligent and wants to see development and will do whatever they can to bring development forward, and they have no interest whatsoever in getting a reputation for being difficult to work with. I'm in the field of real estate. I deal with real estate development on a much smaller perspective. Uline's a $150 million developer. I am not. And I can tell you, as a private real estate person dealing with the city of Kenosha, the village of Pleasant Prairie, or Bristol, or Racine, or any other community, can be challenging at times, but you have to understand that they have a job to do, and that job is to ensure that you have a quality development and that public safety and taxpayers are in mind. Because if they make a mistake, it can be catastrophic, not only to the developer, but to the surrounding area. So those are my comments. Thank you for indulging me this evening. Would hope at some point in the future that we wouldn't necessarily have to schedule time during supervisor comments to speak our mind, and I hope eventually we move towards that. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Bostrom.
Should I go?
County Clerk.
Approval of the May 17th, 2016 minutes by Supervisor Elverman.
Supervisor Elverman, you have the floor.
Yeah, I sped read these a little bit ago, and I'll move them with one change. Resolution number 9 on the back page is from the Public Works Committee on the snowmobile trails, and it says here it was moved by Supervisor Skalitsky, seconded by Supervisor Gilmore, and I'm sure I was sitting here, so I made that motion on that resolution. I don't know who seconded it, but I'll move to approve with that change.
I have a first by Supervisor Elverman and a second by Vice Chair Esposito. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Move to adjourn.
I have a first by Supervisor Kubicki and a second by Supervisor Gable. All in favor? Oh, governance? You know what? That's actually bad.